All right, so I work for an organization that doesn't have a website. We live on Facebook and on Twitter and on YouTube, and we're also the people that everyone is trying to catch and trying to follow. We're the reason you see video in your Facebook feed to begin with. And so, right, we're always talking about video, and I want to know if this feels familiar to you.
Well, all I hear all day long at school is how great Marcia is at this, or how wonderful Marcia did that. Marcia, Marcia, Marcia.
Digital video is the Marcia Brady of journalism. And my goal today is to make sure you are not the Jan, which means to be overlooked and ignored. We talk about it all the time. We're trying to figure it out. We're obsessed with it. And so that's what we're doing today. I know whenever we talk about journalism and people hear the word video, especially the last few years, here are just some of the faces that journalists make. They're like happy and sad and anxious and annoyed, and I get it, I get it. But the truth is we serve a very important place in journalism. And, you know, I also have to highlight that we spent a lot of time in 2017 talking a lot about and reading a lot about this pivot to video. Rest in peace for those we lost. But that doesn't mean that you cannot find success. The first thing we have to figure out is the audience you have the one that you want? And this is where I need you to get out of your feelings and actually get into the facts. Because sometimes we say, hey, we're targeting millennials, but when we look at the analytics, it's like someone's 65-year-old grandpa. Those two things aren't the same. They don't go together, right? And it's okay to have the 65-year-old grandpa if that's where we want to go and what we want to be, then we need to target that, right? But we can't say that we're really talking about millennials. So we have to be honest about desire versus reality. What is your goal? And it seems very basic, but I'm 1,000% serious because people are like, I'm trying to get into video, I'm trying to learn about video. I get this question all the time. They talk about video, they don't talk about the goal. Are you trying to make money? Are you trying to have influence, impact, storytelling, visibility, whatever it is? And the thing is that from the top to the bottom, from the people who make the video, to the people who sell the video, to the people who are making all the editorial decisions, everybody has to be in on what those goals or that goal is. And guess what? You're not the only one. We're already in a crowded marketplace. It's getting more crowded. 86% of publishers say they plan to increase their video production in 2018 alone, and 42% plan to produce TV or OTT this year. Video is a very expensive business to get into, so let's just honor that immediately. Right, because people don't really talk about or think about that. It's just kind of like, I should really be doing this thing. Things cost money. So the next thing I want to get into is that not every story is a video story, and that's okay. You should be doing video stories because that is the best way to tell the story. You shouldn't be doing video stories because you feel like you need to do video stories. And to be clear, a set or a string of still pictures set to music is not a video. That, my friends, is a musical slideshow, and there's a place for it at all of the weddings. But that's not what we're doing here. You also need to figure out what kind of video that you need, right? So AJ Plus pioneered text on video. That is one kind of video. The team that I run and manage does sort of mini docs. There is teams that do long form, short form, something else, right? So once you figure out if the story is a video story, which means it's visual, right? There has to be something I can see, something I can hear. Figure out what style works. And here's the other thing. So we have all these cool new toys, AR, VR, all the things, 360, yay. But what is the purpose of using those toys? If we're just using them so that we can show people that we spent a lot of money on a lot of really nice things, that's not helpful. You should be using toys because they help tell the story. They should serve a purpose. And the other thing, so this is my first job. I only started in the summer at a totally digital organization. And the one thing that I've said in all the organizations that I go to is that people should bring their outside brain inside. Everybody in here is like filming me right now. We're live streaming, right? On phones, on computers. You're a consumer. So why would you walk into your newsroom and act like you don't remember what your phone looks like when you watch video every second of the day? right, when you're at your house. You have things that are inherent to you, right? You know what speaks to you, and you should be bringing that into every discussion because some of that resonates. There are other people who may be thinking like you. So that's what I mean when I say bring your consumer brain into the newsroom. I always encourage people to do that. Video production value matters. I feel like this is something people don't often talk about. We just know it when we see it, and I kind of highlighted it a little bit earlier when I said that video is very expensive. And also, unicorns don't exist. And I actually want you to say that with me, that unicorns don't exist. A writer is different from a producer, is different from talent, is different from an editor, is different from a shooter. And to ask one person to be all of these things and pay them one salary, it can happen. Is it going to happen well? So hire the people if you're trying to be serious, and then pay those people what they're worth. Do not shortchange them. And I feel very strongly about that. I don't feel like that came across. Presentation is not an afterthought. So this, I'm bringing shame to all my Nigerians, but this is a story I pitched and produced, one of the first ones I did at AJ Plus, about why black sitcoms disappeared from network television at the end of the 1990s into the beginning of the new century millennium. So let me show you what I did. Prayers.
AJ Plus black sitcoms. Just watch the video, click the link and subscribe. Like, share, and comment below.
We out. Right, so I do on-camera stuff for the team that I manage. I purposely did my hair that way with the bow and the earrings. You'll see there's like a Discman for those of you who don't know. Shout out to my 90s babies. Right, because I wanted to look the part, the jean jacket, the polka dots, everything. And so often when we talk about presentation, that's what we're thinking of. But that's not just what I mean when I say it in presentation. I also mean headlines and captions. So this is something that really grinds my gears. People are so thoughtful about headlines and captions when it comes to text stories, and they don't bring that same thoughtfulness to video stories. Video, you don't know where people are going to see it. So you have to imagine that people will see it alone, even if it's supposed to be embedded in a story. Your headline has to make sense by itself. The caption, it's not a good headline to have such and such quote from one story that people don't know that's not recognizable, right? You have to sell it. You need to think about the thumbnails. On the left, we have a thumbnail. So we just did a piece on Sunday about why so many inmates in U.S. prison system convert to Islam. You should watch it. I'm very proud of it. This is the thumbnail we did for Facebook. This is the thumbnail that we did for YouTube. And then this is a composite. We meet every week, Monday at noon, with audience development to go through headlines, captions, and thumbnails, thinking through literally every single thing. This is probably like the third or fourth iteration. And we tailor them for each platform because, right, one thing might not work on the other. Story selection matters. There are stories that we're all going to cover, right? Everybody's going to do the Trump tweets and the breaking news and all that stuff. And no one's going to remember you for any of that stuff, right? CNN actually has the business of breaking news because that's probably where most people go when stuff sets up. So how do you stand out as a news organization? You need to be doing the stories that people know just come from you, your original stuff. And I have a few examples from us. So everybody always talks about evangelicals, right? So we did a story on evangelicals, but the ones we never talk about in mainstream media, evangelicals of color. I don't know if you know they exist, but I went and talked to them in Houston. A village in Korea that was in the middle of the international tensions. We did a story, a series actually, on Iranian Americans and the first story was about why there's so many Iranians in Los Angeles. It's a story about immigration, about history, about identity. And in January, our docs unit did a whole series on automation, which everybody's obsessed with, but about the economic impact on everyday lives. These are stories, so even when people don't know AJ Plus, the name, they know us when they see us. And that's something I'm very proud of. They're like, oh, AJ Plus, I don't know. And then if you show them, they're like, no, I watch you all the time. And I'm like, yes. So how do you measure success? If you're thinking about video views, you're already behind, so you can just go ahead and leave and go to the bathroom now, because you're lost to me. You should be thinking in terms of engagement, in terms of watch time. Every month, we sit down with my team and with AudDev, and we literally go second by second through every video that we've done in the previous month. We publish every Sunday. to see what works and what doesn't. That will tell you a lot. You can tell from transitions. You can tell from language. You can tell from, right? Is it literally, there's one producer, whenever this producer's face comes on, it's like, I'm jealous because it's not me. Yeah, so I think you should be worried about watch time. You should be worried about engagement, shares, and the comment section, which I know everybody hates, but I do think people need to go back and really start to get into there to really help make the conversation better. Don't let these trolls own your comment section. So you might see me on there if you're in our comments sometimes. This is something that's really important, so inclusion and representation matter. You cannot talk about video without talking about this, and yet no one ever talks about this. And I just don't mean the people that we cover, because there needs to be inclusivity in that. Different people, different stories. The internet is literally just a set of communities that want to see and be heard. But you also need to know who are you sending out to cover those stories, which means, wait for it, what do your newsrooms look like? What do your producers look like? How many women, how many people of color, who's running the show? So yeah. How your organization is covering these communities, and these are just a few of the on-air people that we have. Final thoughts, one size does not fit all. You cannot copy and paste, Control-C, Control-V, what AJ Plus does for you or your organization. You have to take and choose, right? Or from BuzzFeed or anything. I know there are always cool things. You have to pick and choose what works for your organization, the thing that makes sense for that brand. And I think that's all I have for you guys. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.